Hello and welcome back to an on-the-road edition of Blumira Briefings, your weekly download of the top headlines and trends for your security practice. As you can probably tell, I am not at the home studio this week, but headed into the home stretch of Black Hat and DEF CON, and this year has been a hot one, like 6 or 7 inches from the midday sun. I'm not sure. I haven't checked the weather report. But I always love coming to these things because you get to hear about what folks have been working on, new announcements that are coming out, really silly vendor missteps that kind of come out of left field. And it's just good to get to catch up with those folks in person. It's a good reminder that this industry is a community. And it's one of the things that I most enjoy about coming to Vegas. That and discovering new places, sharing dinner with folks, and having possibly the best dumplings of my life. Din Tai Fung, don't sleep on it next time you're out here. But without further ado, let's get to the news. This week we had 3 major announcements of new KEV additions involving Langflow, patchy Tomcat, and enable Cove data protection. The first was a critical code injection flaw in Langflow. It allows unauthenticated attackers to achieve RCE. Then also the enable and central flaw was an auth bypass that enabled remote attackers to gain admin access to vulnerable servers. Exploitation allows them to take control of managed endpoints and establish persistent access. Not a good time. So, Matt, folks may have noticed that we started talking more about KEV advisories than newly announced CVEs. Why is that when we're seeing more CVEs now than really at any point in the past?
That's exactly the right question, because look, most organizations don't have a vulnerability problem. Instead, problems tend to exist around prioritization more than anything else. There are tens of thousands of CVEs that get published every year, more than 48,000 in 2025, and 2026 is shaping up to be probably somewhere, and this is just my own estimate, between 60 and 65,000. No IT team and certainly no MSP can realistically respond to every one of those with the same level of urgency, and that's where the KEV catalog becomes so valuable. A CVE tells us that a vulnerability exists, while KEV tells us attackers are actually using it. There's a huge difference there. I mean, think about this from an MSP's perspective for a second. If CISA adds something to the KEV catalog, it's because somebody someplace has already proven that exploiting it is worthwhile. There's a benefit to exploiting it. That immediately moves it higher on the priority list than a theoretical vulnerability that may never be weaponized. What's also interesting about this week's additions is the variety. You've got AI development tools with Langflow, traditional web infrastructure with Tomcat instructs make the eye twitch a little bit these days, and so in 2003 as well. And things like backup software with Enable. On paper, those things don't really have a whole lot in common, but from an attacker's perspective, they absolutely do. Each one represents a trusted platform that can provide broad access to data, access to systems, and it doesn't matter whether it's a web server, a backup platform, an AI framework. Attackers are looking for technologies that give them leverage. I think the takeaway here is not patch these products. It's to build your vulnerability management process around evidence and not volume. If something lands in the KEV catalog, that's your signal that the conversation has shifted from could this happen to it's already happening and it's time to do something about it.
Next up, we had 400 packages in the NPM ecosystem that were compromised using stealing developer credentials and using those trusted accounts to publish additional malicious packages. This included KEV, which has over 150 million weekly downloads, and made use of a Ethereum blockchain method known as ether hiding. During installation, a pre-install script executes some malicious files, and that downloads to run a secondary obfuscated payload. It scans the environment for cloud credentials, infrastructure secrets, developer access tokens, and expect to see more of this, AI configuration files. So if attackers are compromising trusted software ecosystems like NPM, we can argue later whether NPM should still be a trusted ecosystem. How does that change the way that organizations really need to defend themselves?
I think this story highlights one of the biggest shifts we've seen over the past few years. Attackers are realizing that it's often easier to compromise trust than it is to compromise technology. Instead of breaking through a firewall, they steal a developer's credentials. Instead of writing sophisticated exploits, they're publishing malware using an account everyone already trusts. That's what makes supply chain attacks so effective. As defenders, we tend to think about protecting production systems, right? But we also have to think about protecting the process that creates those systems. Developer workstations matter. Build pipelines matter. Package repositories, as we're all finding out every single day now, matter. And developer identities matter just as much. For MSPs, even if you're not building commercial software, you're probably writing PowerShell scripts, building automations and integrations, or have some internal tools. Those become part of your own software supply chain. One compromised account can affect every single client that trusts what you're distributing. So I think that the lesson here is that trust itself has become a part of the attack surface. It's no longer enough to ask, is this package malicious? We also have to ask who published it, how was it published, and can we trust that process?
And finally, for this week, we had a smokescreen campaign, an active multi-wave attack where as yet unidentified threat actors are installing ConnectWise ScreenConnect on victim machines. One of the things to pay attention to here, there's a lot of evasion tactics that they're making use of, including a 180-second delay between the MSI installation and when the service starts. That is specifically to target elastic EDR event correlation windows. So we've been seeing this rising tide of both EDR killer and EDR evasion attacks. This is another example of that. So we've obviously seen attackers target legitimate remote access tools before. We've talked about it at least once or twice, even in the last month. But Matt, why does this category of software keep showing up in major incidents?
It's because these tools are designed to do exactly what attackers want. They've been built to provide remote access, elevate privileges when necessary, perform file transfers and command executions, and they've got persistent connectivity. That's like the hacker appetizer sampler platter from Applebee's, right? It's a little bit of everything you want. Those are incredibly valuable features for IT professionals, and they're incredibly valuable features for attackers as well. That's why we continue seeing things like ScreenConnect, AnyDesk, TeamViewer, SplashTop, and other remote management tools show up in incident reports. It's usually not because the software itself is malicious, it's because attackers understand that trusted tools generate far less suspicion than custom malware. From a defender's perspective, that's where detection becomes much more difficult. You can't simply alert every time ScreenConnect launches. That would create constant noise. Instead, you have to start understanding the behavior. Who started the session? Where did the session originate? Is it happening at an unusual time? Is it normal for that technician or that particular customer? Those behavioral questions become much more valuable than simply identifying the application that's running. Now, for MSPs, I think that's the real takeaway. Remote management software is not going away, and it shouldn't. Heck, I used to use Dameware, 25 some odd years ago, and the stuff was like a lifesaver. But the more that we rely on trusted administrative tools, the more important it becomes to monitor how those tools are being used, not just whether they're being installed. Shout out to Dameware. You guys saved my ass a lot. All right.
Absolutely, Matt. It's a good reminder, right? People love these commercial tools because they're super easy to set up, super easy to walk users through. And attackers love these tools because they're super easy to set up, super easy to walk people through. So thank you for that context, Matt. That's going to wrap it for us for this week on Blumira Briefings. I will see you in 2 weeks. Get ready for a guest host the next couple of weeks as I head off into the sunset and enjoy a little bit of PTO. In the meantime, let me know what your favorite place is to get food while you're in Vegas, because I have at least 1 or 2 more meals left. And until next time, stay safe out there. Bye-bye, everybody.